My name is Mavis Dokenu. I'm a data science trainer with Azumi Africa. And so that's just a brief about me. You can also put your name and where you are joining us from in the chat. I think the chat has been enabled now, so you can. I just quickly put a brief intro. And yeah, the chat has been enabled now, so maybe just for confirmation, somebody can just type in there so that I can be sure that it's actually working. You can just type your name and where you're joining us from in the chat. So this session is about data analysis. So I think this was at the top. So data cleaning and then pre-processing. I will just go to the agenda for the meeting and then we'll just jump right into it. So I would first start with the definition of data analytics and why is data cleaning important, and now I have a notebook as well that I'll be doing a demo on, and we can go to the Q&A session where you can ask your questions. But before I even go to the notebook session, after my presentation slide, if you have any questions as well, you can let me know on your end. Yeah. Okay, so what is data analytics? Data analytics is a collection and the transformation, organization of data to draw conclusions, make predictions, and drive informed decision makers. So I think this definition is clear enough. So in data analytics, like we have types of data analytics. We have the descriptive analytics, we have the predictive analytics, diagnostic analytics, and prescriptive analytics. Sorry. So in all of this process, it's important that whether your data is being collected or is collected in terms of it is a secondary data, the data needs to be transformed and kind of be organized. And normally in the predictive analytics, there are a lot more that goes into it in terms of you have to build certain machine learning models and maybe deep learning models. So there are some, let's say, special things that has to be done, like you have to do a feature engineering and maybe do a few scaling here and there. So in the organization and transformation process of data for the various types of analytics, there are some kind of differences that you would have to maybe quote unquote maybe learn more on to be able to use it to draw more insights into your data or to be able to make informed decision from your data. Yes. So I'll just go into it then. Yeah. Like I said, after the presentation slides, if you have a question, you can let me know before I move into the notebook. So what is the essence of data cleaning? Why is data cleaning important? So in the real world, is like I said, we know that we have types of data access process. Like we have the primary data, secondary data, where you actually go for your data sets, and the secondary data, the data is there, and then you get it to do whatever you want to do with it. But it's because of some of these factors, it doesn't make our work very easy in the sense that the data is dirty sometimes, and there are certain factors that cause our data to be dirty. And like I said, if you want to make like get valuable insights from your data sets, you that's where the need for data cleaning comes in. You need to clean your data. Yes. So what are some of the factors that causes data to be dirty? We have incomplete information, where there are certain things that are missing in the data, because it's human beings that gather this data, and there can be certain faults in terms of human errors that can cause a lot of things, duplicate information in the data. Like typically the data is like dirty, certain things you have to take care of. We have what's called the noise, containment errors, and certain information that are also meaningless. You don't even need them in the data. You need to take care of them if you want to get meaningful insights from the data. And we have inconsistencies where there are certain discrepancies in the data. Some information don't add up to certain things. So let's say you work for an organization, your data might come from different data sources, but they are on the same information. So if your there's like some kind of discrepancies in terms of certain things don't are not the same, they don't add up, you would have to take care of all of those things that is causing your data set to be dirty. Yeah, so these are some of the few things that causes our data sets to be dirty. So yeah, we wouldn't even have to talk about whether it's important, because it is important. If you have all of these things in your data set, it is actually important to have a clean data. So now we talk about the importance of data cleaning. Most of it, I like my best answer for importance of data cleaning to be like garbage in, garbage out. If you put garbage inside something, you definitely get garbage out. I mean, that's like the informal importance, but yeah, let's try to be formal here. So we just get a few formal information, but like I said, the importance of cleaning data, like just is you put garbage in, you get garbage out. So ideally, it's important to get a clean data. Yeah, whether you are treating them, you are using them for business analytics, or getting informed decision for a business, using them for machine learning models, or whatever the data is for. If you put garbage in, you get garbage out. So the first importance I have here, there are lots here, but just to have a few slides here, or a few things on my slides, not to keep the slide too busy and all of that. So we have just a few. The first one is to be able to generate meaningful insight. And I think I've spoken about that. Yeah, you really want to have certain information you derive from any form of data, but it is not a good representative of the data because the data wasn't cleaned enough. Yeah. And also it's to avoid unnecessary costs as a result of making poor business decisions because of bad data. I've talked about the business side where you need to clean your data if you are using it for some kind of business information, or you are a business analyst for any kind of business. If you use bad data for it, you cost the business money because they would make informed decisions from the information you have provided out of the data. Now, if the data is bad or is not clean enough, that would mean that they will make poor business decisions out of the information you have provided as a result of bad data. You get it? So it will cost the business. That is another very important importance of cleaning your data, not to cost your business unnecessary costs. Yeah, and also in that's very dicey in the field of health and then of science. This will literally mean that your decisions that you have made from your data is between life and death. That will take us back to the diagnostic analytics, where um, data is used to for all of this information on cancer and all of that, because we will need the data and we would use it for a lot of things, build models to be able to um, know how to treat people. So if you provide a data set, you were lazy and then you didn't clean your data enough, that would mean that it can cost somebody's life. And there are very important reasons in various sectors. These are just a few of them. But Like I said, you in the various sectors in terms, so this is just in terms of finance and in health, but there are various sectors in agri and all of that. Most of it you'll be costing people their lives or their money. So as a analyst, sorry, you have to pay attention to your data. And truthfully, cleaning your data takes a lot of your time as a data scientist, a data analyst, or whatever. So you need to take your time to clean your data because it's very important if you just don't want to put anything out there. Yes, so this is just it for before I go to my notebook. If you have any questions here, you can um, put your questions in the Q&A. Are there any? No. So if you have any question, today what I'll be doing is a demo in Python. I'm hoping that those who have joined have some kind of basics in Python because this is data cleaning in Python. So I'll pause here now. If you have any question, you can kindly let me know. Please, are there any questions or I can? I'll come back to the questions again after the notebook demo. So maybe I can stop sharing my screen here. If you have any question, please type it in the Q&A session. And I'm still waiting for my introduction. I didn't get introduction from you. So those who have joined, you can just quickly type your name. I can see your name, but then tell us where you're joining us from. Yeah, it's good to have you anyways. Yeah, I think my screen should be visible now. If you have any questions, you can type it in the chat so far on what I've said. If you have any question, you can put it in the chat. So, like I said, this is a data cleaning process that is done in Python. So, if you are not familiar with this, this is Jupyter Notebook is an environment or a place that we use in all of our data cleaning and the data analytics process in data as a data scientist, sorry, or a data analyst, but this is a purely Python library. Yeah. So I'm hoping that we are all a bit familiar with this. So the data set that I did the cleaning on here is a data set on video game sales. So just general data that has been gathered on sales. And I have a few information here telling us about the columns in the the data set. So we have a list of games with sales greater than 100,000 copies, which was generated, it was actually scraped from this website. Let me see if I can use this. Yeah, but I think you can see this is it. This is the website. The data set was scraped from. Yeah. Um, So with the columns, these are the columns that I have put here. When I go into the data set as well, you can be able to look at them in the columns when I'm viewing the head of the data set. So we have the platform, that is the platform of the games released, and then the year the games were released, the genre of the games, the publishers, and then where the sales was done. This is North America, and then in Europe, Japan, and then other sales in the rest of the world, and then total sales worldwide. So this is just like a brief on where the data set or what the data set is about. So we have a few Python libraries here. Like I said, this is a data cleaning process that was done in Python. So we have a few here. The chat is open. Yeah. So we have a few Python libraries here that was done to clean, was used in our data cleaning process and also the visualization process. So we have Pandas, NumPy, and these are also Python, like I said, they are Python libraries in helping to do data analytics stuff. So basically, in our cleaning process, these libraries help us. And then we have the SciPy stats, which is like a stats library, a Python stats library to help you do things concerning stats. So I would explain why I have a stats library here in doing data cleaning data. And then we have this library, Seaborn, Plotly Express, um, Generate Plotly, Matplotlib, and then there's a warning library also to take care of unnecessary warnings that when you are doing all of these things, it will just pop up and it is not visually appealing. We want to have our notebook looking good, so we want to take care of all of these things. And then there's this library, the simple imputer that is also used to impute missing values. So, like I said, this is a data cleaning process, and these are some of the things I talked about, the factors that causes data to be dirty. And missing values by far is one of the things you have to be dealing with lots of the time. Yeah. And yeah, these are some of the stats libraries as well, because I did a bit of hypothesis testing here to just give you a brief on. Sometimes you would have a data set, or you generally have a data that you would want to just do kind of a bit of testing to know that, okay, I have a claim, I would like to test it hypothetically, and then you put it out there, then you can find all of this information from your data. And for the analysis questions, I have just 5 questions here to kind of generate insights from our data. And you can draft as many analysis questions depending on what you are interested in. So these are just a brief on just to get some information on the data. And like I said, sometimes you might also be interested in a claim. So you can just quickly draft a hypothesis to test it out. And then one thing about doing hypothesis testing in data analytics, you can prove it with visualizations, because visualizations are good representative of like what is happening in your data set. But sometimes they might not be enough. So you might have to do it statistically by doing a statistical test. You get it. So we'll get into that. So to understand my data set or any data set in general, you need to do what we call the exploratory data analysis to explore your data and pre-process the data to get it in the form that you want to be able to use it to generate insight. Or I've talked about the type of analytics. If you are doing a predictive analytics or whatever, you are building models and all of that, you do a bit more pre-processing. But in this case, we are just taking care of certain things out of the data set after we have explored the data set. But pre-processing goes in a very broad view in terms when it comes to machine learning and all of that. But yeah, I just, like I said, we did a bit of pre-processing just to get our data ready to get the insights that we want out of our data set. So what we call the EDA, the exploratory data analysis, is done to check the quality of our data. So like I said, data in its form doesn't come like ready. So you need to take care of it. And I've mentioned a few things here you need to check um, out for when you want to check the quality of the data. So you have to check for the data types of the information you have. So some of the data sets, the columns, you can see that these are numbers. But when you check the data type, you see that it's in the form of a categorical form. So you need to take care of all of these things. And there are reasons why sometimes it might just be nothing. But sometimes too, it might be that there are certain misplaced information in that particular column, causing it to give you a different data type than it's supposed to be. So you need to take this information out, then you can send it to the right data type to be able to analyze your data. And like I said, missing data, and then you have to check for your columns that are in their categorical forms and then also in their numerics or their continuous forms. The reason why this is important is because in data cleaning, there are different ways you should treat your categorical data and then your numeric data. You don't treat them the same way, even if there are missing values in there. You don't treat them, especially when there are missing values there. You don't treat them the same way because there are a lot of factors that influences numerics like prices and all of that. You don't treat them like you are treating categorical data. Yeah, it might cost you um, all of that. So you have to check out for all of this information. What is the categorical information and categorical columns and numeric columns? Then you know that okay, this is my columns that I have. Then you know how to treat them. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry. And you have to check for duplicates. Like I said, it's human beings that gather data sets, and there might be some information that might be put out there more than required. That is once. So, and also for custom checks, you have to do certain custom checks. Like I said, this data set was scraped from a website. So sometimes when you take certain data sets, you will see all of these emails and all of these ads and links, all these HTTP links there. Because most data sets are scraped or some are scraped. So you need to do some of these custom checks and widgets functions. Like I said, I'm hoping that people in this session have a bit of Python knowledge so you can follow some of the things that I'm saying. Yes. So you have to do all of these custom checks for email addresses and all of these. These are noise in the data sets. Like I put out the factors earlier on, these are noise and they need to be taken out. They are unnecessary data or unnecessary information in the data, and then you need to take it out. So to be able to view the data sets, let me use my notation now. We use this dot head function to check for the first 5 rows of the column. It's just to give you a brief on what the data set contains. Yes, so like you can see, I've given a brief on the columns of the data set already, but you can see the columns here, the names, the platforms, and I've explained the meaning of all of these columns. So these are the first 5 rows of the columns. And you want to just view the columns as a distinct variable on its own. So this is just to check the columns that are here. So you can just take a look at them here. These are the columns that are in the data set. And what I'm doing is still on the EDA. We are exploring our data set. We want to see what is in my data set. What are we dealing with? What kind of data sets are we dealing with? So what I did mention earlier also in checking for the quality of data, one thing that's very important is to check for the distribution of the data set. You need to check for all of this. You need to check for outliers. These are all very important. Like I said, these are just a few of them. So, but as the time goes, if something pops into my mind, I'll just say, so you need to check for the distribution. Like the scale is the data like skewed towards a part of the information in the data, or is it in the right distribution? You need to check for all of these information, and then you would deal with it. Most of this information will not affect you much in when you are just deriving business information. But when you are having to do machine learning models and build models, fine tune models, they will come in handy. You need to check for all of this. Yeah, so we have checking for the unique values in this is the total unique values in the individual columns. So the numbers will not really be important. Like I said, you have to check for the categorical and the numeric columns in your data set. Now, you see, because we have all of these, the information is not really important, but for the categorical columns, it's important. Some of them, you have the countries, you need to check for how many distinct countries do we have. So some of these things are important. That's why we check for the number of total unique columns and all of that. Yes, so we have this info. We use this dot info code to normally get a general broad view of the data set. So you can see that we have most of them to be 16,598. So when we have less, it means that there are certain columns that do not contain all of the required information or the total information. It's not good enough to check for missing values. So if you come here, I have this function also checking for the total number of missing values. This is now, you know, when you see this nows in your data set, it means you have missing values. So we have this is now function that is used to check for the missing values. So the sum is giving us the total number of missing values in the total columns. So I'll go back to the info again. I was just talking about the check for the missing values. And another check information that the .info function brings in is the data types. I've spoken about the data types. Sorry, this is not shit. The data types, so we have floats, we have integers, but there's a way to check for all of the data types is specifics. This is broad, like I said. So you have to check for the data types in specific, see if the column in itself is appearing in the right data type. So I'm speaking about this now function, giving us the total number of missing values we have here. Yeah, this is giving us the total number of missing values in the data set. So you can see that some of the data sets don't contain missing values, but some do. So sorry, we have the publishers missing about 58 missing data, and then we have the year column also having some missing information in here. The ones with the zeros means that they don't have missing values. So we are going to go on those columns. And then the shape is giving us the total number of rows and then columns in our data set. The first one tells us the total number of rows, and then the second one is the number of columns. This is still on the EDA, checking on getting like a broad view on how our data set is like. So you need to check for the total number of rows and the total number of columns. You can do this before giving the info so that you know that if and a column is not up to this total number of rows, then you know that this is missing some information even before you do the dots the is now function to check for the missing values in the data set. And like I said, some of the things that causes missing data is duplicate. So you have to also check for that, check for duplicates in the data set. If there were this data does not contain duplicates, if there are duplicates, you would have to drop them. duplicates are repetitions of information, so they are not required. You have to drop all of that. There are human errors. Some of the errors that are caused by humans, so you would have to get rid of that. So this is also checking on the unique informations of the various columns. So if you, like I said, this is still on the EDA. We are exploring our data set. We want to know more about the data set. So you can check for the unique information contained in particular columns. So this is on the genus. We have sports, we have platform, racing, role playing, puzzles. These are on the genus of the games that we have. The data set is on the games. If you just join us, we are on a data set on video games. So the genres of the video games are um, sports, shooter video games, simulation, action, fighting, and then these are the unique platforms. And then on the years as well, yeah, this is still on missing, checking for missing values and all of that. Process. So, like we said, we have certain informations that are missing. And then in our pre-processing, we will need to take care of all of that. But another thing that you also have to do is getting rid of unwanted information or columns in this instance. Some data sets will come with certain columns that you do not require, even if it is for industry work. Sometimes you might be provided with some information that you wouldn't need for your analysis. You can get rid of them. You can drop all of this information you don't require in that particular instance, or it is not important in your analysis. So for here, the wrong column, you see it as it's not important, so that was dropped. And then to dealing with missing values. Yeah. So I think before I'll go, I think this is still on. Let me talk about some things you can also do on the EDA, still on checking for the quality with the data and all of that. This is used to get like a brief statistics on your data set, get the total count of the data, get a mean. This describe function can only work for numerics or numerical columns. So you can get the mean of the sales that was done, the standard deviation, the minimum sales, the first or the maximum, the 25% or 75% of your data and all of that. So just a brief statistics on your numeric columns, most importantly. So you can just check out for that as well. And also to get a brief on the platforms and how they are performed, you can do that in. So what the univariate analysis is doing an analysis on just one feature of your data. So that is what we term as the univariate analysis. If you want to do a comparison between two bivariate analysis, more than two is what we call the multivariate analysis. You can get that information. It depends on what information you want, most importantly. So you can do all of that in your EDA. Still, that information is to understand what you are doing. And you have a correlation matrix here telling us about how correlated the variables that we have are to each other. So sometimes this is important because it helps you, it's like it tells you if a particular column affects another. So it's important if you are able to get how correlated um, informations are to each other, you are able to know that, okay, this has an influence on this. So when you are doing your analysis or when you are building your models, you can be able to properly have that information and properly deal with that, or get proper information using that information. Sometimes to in building models, informations that have the same kind of correlations affect the models in different ways. So you wouldn't have to deal with all of this colors because they are bringing in the same information on that. But that is so much into machine learning, so I will not go into much details on that. Yeah, so you can do your bivariate analysis, your invariant analysis, multivariate analysis, anything that you would want to do, you can, or any information you want to derive, you can deal with that in there. And like I said, one of the things that affects data a lot is missing values. And when you are dealing with missing values, it's important, one, to understand the data sets you are dealing with, or have in the first instance, you have to have a very good business understanding of your data, or what you have to derive, or what you are going to. Then understanding the data in itself, the complexity of the data sets. Yeah, because when you are, like I said, data has its effect on various sectors. Let me use sectors in different ways, because if you are dealing with data or missing information in health, it's it's important how you deal with it. Even in statistics, we give a percentage of error of 1% when it comes to the health sector, but if it's in different sectors like agric and all, you can give 5 and 10 is allowed. So if you are dealing with missing values or missing information, sometimes your business understanding is very important, because if you just put any information out there or you don't figure it out well, it would not give you a very good representative of your data set, how you deal with the missing information. So the various ways of dealing with missing data, one, you can replace the data. Yes, you can. Some people, a lot of people don't like that, where they have to replace the data. Yeah, but that is like one of the things you have to do. If you can easily access the data, you would have to access the data and then replace them. Replace the missing information, or you can impute. When you are imputing, one important thing is looking out for outliers, because you cannot impute with data sets that is like has a wide, it's not really that is skewed towards a particular point, or is containing certain outliers. If you use a mean, it will affect it. So these are all some of the few things you have to be looking out for when you are treating missing data. Yeah. So here we did a bit of imputation here, where we use the scikit-learn library to impute. Yeah. So we imputed the mean for the numeric columns with the mean, and then the categorical columns with the mode that is the most frequent. That was imputed. Another way is to um, interpolate where random variables are used. But like I said, it's important that you understand your data set and what it affects, so that when you are dealing with the missing values, you just don't use any approach because of using sick. You just want to fill in the information and then you are off. So you are just putting anything out there. The business understanding is very important, and then especially what you are trying to achieve, then you can deal with your missing information in the right way. So we this is just getting the right information for categorical colors and the numeric colors. This is just viewing the categorical colors that were imputed, and then later on they were merged onto the actual data set to have our data set complete. So after that, you can see that if you do the run the missing column information again, we do not have any missing values here. All of these are like zeros. So this is it. We do not have any missing information. Before we could see, I think the publishers and then the journalists to have a few missing information. Yeah. So sometimes you can see people use few NAs and all of that. The reason why I don't like to use that, or few memes, few NA memes and all of that, I don't like to use that is because they are not exportable. Sometimes you might clean your data sets, and then you might build models, and you might build apps, and then you want to deploy. If you have a simple imputer, you can export that and it will naturally take care of any missing information. But if you don't have, if you just go ahead and go with the easy way out, use few NAs and all of that, it does not give you the right, you feel the missing values all right, but um, it will just be in the notebook. That means you have to have a separate approach of dealing with them if you want to export your cleaning to something like using your cleaning process in an app and all of that. It makes your work a bit redundant. You have to do the same thing over and over again. So the year column, changing the data types, I think it was in the float. You can see 2016, 2006.0 previously. If you, sorry, let me take here so you can see it here. And then this is not a good representation of, sorry, let me use my annotations. This is not a good representation of how your year should be. I don't know why I can't do this straight. Sorry. Yeah. So these are some of the few things you have to check for. You don't have to have some of these things in your work. You have to put them in the right form. And if a column is, maybe you have these sales, if this is in floats, that's why it has a point, 4, 6, and all of that. You can put them into their whole numbers by changing them into integers and all of that. So depending on what you want, sometimes you need to change the data types, and sometimes it is just not right. So you will have to change the data types into its right form. Yes. So please, if you have a question, let me check if there are questions. If you have a question, you can ask before I move to the next thing I want to talk about. If you have a question, you can put it in the Q&A session. Yeah, welcome to those who have joined. If you have a question or something you'd like me to repeat or show more light on, you can ask. Or if not, I will move on. Okay, let me move on then. Yeah, so like I said, sometimes there might just be some claim that you would want to find out using a data set that this is right or not. Yeah, so technically that is what hypothesis testing does. It's to prove whether a claim is true or not using a statistical test. Like I said, when you are doing data analysis, because visualizations give you a good representation of information, sometimes visualizations can be good, but sometimes also they are not good representative. So that is why even in data analysis, you have to do a bit more of hypothesis testing to actually prove that this information is actually proven, or this claim is actually proven statistically that it is right. Then you have much information to base your claims on where you arrive at the end of the day. Yeah. So let me read my hypothesis before. So we have what we call, when you are stating a hypothesis, we have what we call the null hypothesis. Oh, sorry. Please, kindly confirm for me if you can see my screen. Yeah, we have what is called the null hypothesis and then the alternate hypothesis. The null hypothesis, we are assuming that the claim that we are having or the samples or the population we are dealing with do not have actual effects on each other or they do not have any relations. And then the alternative is just the opposite of that. So when you do your test, if you accept your null hypothesis or your, I'll come into that. This is just a brief. If you do not accept your null hypothesis after you have done your test, then it means that your alternate hypothesis is true. So the genus of the game do not influence the sale. So if you do your test and then you do not have enough information to accept that claim, then it will mean that the genus of the games that have been published do not actually influence the sales that are made. Yes. So there are various tests that are used in doing your hypothesis. There are various tests. We have a ANOVA, we have the chi-square test and all of that. There are lots F tests. You need to know what you want to achieve, then find out a bit more information on the right statistical test to use to be able to uh, get the right information. Yes, the words are not coming here. So that's basically it. You know what you want to prove. You want to test it out statistically. There are various tests that you can use. So depending on the information you want to find out, you can use them. The t-test can be used when you have just two samples that you are dealing with. You have the ANOVA can deal with more than two. So like I said, it depends on the information that you want to find out. Then you can use that to you can use the right statistical test to do your information. So don't bang your head so much about this. This is just an easy Python code that it's used to test for the t-test. So yes, so the reason why I'm not like teaching like typing all of this out is I don't want you to assume that somebody has all of this in their head because there are documentations that helps us to put it there. The only thing is that you have to tweak it a bit to the information that you are looking for and also on the particular data sets that you have. So normally we have how do I say it? As a standard way of comparing of proving our hypothesis. So we have these values, and then there are a lot of ways also. Let me say this: there are a lot of ways where we how we draw conclusions after doing our hypothesis statistically. So here I'm using oh I wrote ANOVA. Sorry, this is not supposed to be ANOVA. It's a t-test. So we have a p-value of 0.0, and normally we compare this to, if you don't have much information on statistics, you can read more so that when you have a data set and then you want to prove a claim about the data set and you want to do it statistically, you can just read more on how to do hypothesis testing and what all of this means. So please don't worry yourself so much if you don't have so much statistics knowledge and then you do not understand. But yeah, when you have this p-value, you have what we call the z-score, and it's normally a percentage of error that we are allowing in our test that we are doing. And what is normally allowed, like the normal or the accepted or most used rate is giving our test a room of giving our data set or our test a room of 5% to make errors. Yes, but like I said, when it's in the health sector, because people's life are involved, you cannot give that wide room for errors and mistakes. So you have to give it a range of 1%. If it is less than that, you have to not accept the claim because people's lives are involved. If you maybe are doing data analytics for a health sector, you are doing something that involves health or people's lives and all of that, you would have to make sure that the room that you give out errors here, statistically called disease score, to be very small. Yeah. So that is about that. So this it has a p-value of 0.002, which is quite less than the 5%, which is 0.5. So we fail to accept our hypothesis and say that the genres of games that are actually published actually do influences the sales that we make. Yeah. So I'm done on the EDA and pre-processing. If you have the question, if you have any question, you can put it in the chat. If you want to speak as well, you can request and then I can just unmute you and then you can ask your question. If you want to ask your questions by asking, maybe you cannot type, you can just request your mic to be unmuted and I can unmute from my end for you. Okay. So we are done with the cleaning process and the pre-processing to get our data sets and our tests that we did to just know more on our data sets, just to check on the quality, make sure that everything is right for us to derive insights from our data sets. So we have, like I said, I have a few questions for those who joined late. I read it out, but they are also up here. I have a few questions that I'm using to derive insights from the data sets. So the first question here is, what genre of um, video games has been published the most? So this is just a bar chart to visualize this information. You can see from the visualization we have the action to be the most published game. And obviously if, like I said, the test that we saw shows that the genre of games actually influences our sales. And these are business people. They want to know, like, does the genre of games that can be published on the various platforms influences the sales? So if this is so, then they'll have to find out which games actually make the most sales and then they'll publish more. So as a business analyst or a data analyst, all of this information are important. You need to get more on your test, do some tests statistically to be able to see what is actually going on with your data or be able to derive insights that will be able to generate money for yourself, for your business, for your organization, and all of that. So from here, you can see the most published game here is to be action. Probably is the one that makes the most sales. That's why it's being published. And then we have sports and, and the links. I don't know so much on this game. Yeah, I don't play game that much. Yeah. And then we have role playing. Yeah, so you can see in order which games um have been most published from this visualization, and then which year had the most video games released. So let me push this up a bit. The graph is like not really showing at all. So this cannot be seen. I don't know why it's showing like this. Yeah, but I'm hoping that you can see because the years we have the years like following and all of that. So from here you can see the years that had most games fortunately or unfortunately, the published games like actually reduce, probably because maybe people's interest reduce. So when you get all of these, you're able to derive this information from your data. Sometimes you can use that information to like derive further information from it. Yeah, so I'll come to your question. So from here, you can see that the year with the most game that has been published is 29, followed by 28, then 2006, then 2010. So somebody has a question in the chat. Please, are you the one generating the explanation or the site of the explanation is from the plot? So I don't know. This plot is not really showing from here. It's a bit crowded from here, so you can see the explanation is from the plot that I'm not generating it from anywhere. So you can see I have my questions. So what you have to notice, I have my questions that I want to derive particular informations about. You get it? So from here, the first one, which genre of video games has been published the most? Then I have this. So this is, let me use this on the Twitter again. This is this plot. Earlier, I've already said that we have a documentation that will help. So don't worry about putting all of these codes in your head. You will not be required to put all of these codes in your head. The pandas documentation and all of that has this code. The only thing is that you have to tweak it to your data sets because you have to put your right data information and all of that into it. But you don't need to put all of the codes into your head. The documentations will help you out. So you can see I have a bar chart from here, and then you can see from here the count on the games that has been published. So you can see action to be having like the highest games published. So from the visualizations, that is where I'm getting my information from. Yeah, it's from the plot above. So I don't know if you can see, but I have a brief note on that. So from the plot above, the genre of video games published is the most is action, followed by sports, then next, then role play, shooter, and adventure video games. Yeah. Okay, so on the third insight that was generated is on what are the genre of video games have made um, that have made the most sales globally. So we have this information also on the comparing the genre with respect to their sales globally. So you can see from the visualization we have shooter generating a lot of sales. Sometimes sales, because it's like what you sell times the actual price, um, the value might be a lot, but it might not be what's going out on the market so much. But because the prices, probably the shooter prices have like are more, even though they are not the most produced video games, because probably their prices, there are lots of factors that goes into all of these things. Yeah, so but generally you can see that the genre of games sold globally is shooter and role playing follows, and then the platform. So top 10 video game publishers. Yeah, we have Nintendo and Electronic Arts. These are the top 10 video game publishers in the world. Yeah. So yeah, it follows Sony Computer Entertainment. Yeah. So these are some insights. So like I said, this is just my questions. The because this is not like so much of a data set for business and all of that, you can generate your questions. But if you're working for an organization, you would have to work with respect to the information that they are looking for and get the right visualizations to represent the information. So the publishers, so getting you can use the tables to represent, but this is just on the and getting on the visualizations as well. So it's the same information. And the country that makes the most sales, we have North America, and Europe, and Japan, followed by others. So these are the states or countries that makes like the most sales from video games. So North America has like the highest sales made from video games, followed by Europe. So basically, that is it on my demo today. Yeah, so is there any other question? So if you have a question, you can put it out there. So there are various analytical tools that you can use for data cleaning. Even Power BI, that's like a visualization tool, you can do data cleaning in there. There are lots you can do it in Python, you can clean your data, even if you are doing it in Excel. There are lots of things, but this is just a data cleaning process that was done in Python. So maybe if you're a beginner, you want to learn how to clean your data. It's not only in Python you can clean your data. The only thing is that Python is quite dynamic. Yeah, is and like I said, you don't have to put all of these codes in your head. We have documentations that will help you to do, get the right information that you want. So it's basically that on the technical things that you need to learn. On soft skills, I'm still waiting for the questions before we end the question. If you have a session, if you have any questions, you can bring it out. For I have a few points here for soft skills on being like a good data analyst. You have to be curious and thoughtful, and you have to have the ability to listen because you'll be deriving information for people. People are going to use your information. So you have to be able to have the ability to listen carefully and understand what they need, understand both your employer and your colleagues. Because in the world of data science, data analytics, you'll be working with people wherever, but just in our field. So data analysts, you working with people, you need to be able to cooperate with your colleagues and all of that. And it's an ever changing field, so you need to have the ability or willingness to learn new things and learn all the time. Yes. So just that's just about that. If there are any questions before we go, you can just quickly let me know. Okay. So should I assume there are no questions? I think there was a question in the chat, but I already answered it. Yeah. So okay. So my name is on the page. I mean, Zoom has our name out here. So if you want to reach out, you can just type my name on LinkedIn and send a message if you want to discuss further. Either way, like I said from the beginning, for those who are not here, I'm a data science trainer with Azubi. We have various um, academies. We train people in data science or data analytics, cloud computing, front end. Yeah. So you can reach out to me if you need any information. You can check out on our website and all of that. Yeah. Thank you very much, guys, for joining the session.